Hi guys, I'm Laura.
And I'm Faris. And today we wanted to talk about social media and kind of my relationship with it.
Yeah, so over the holidays, I found that Faris was just feeling all consumed with it. And you sort of approached me. And what did you say about social media?
Well, I said that I feel like it's like ruining my life a little bit. Like I feel very, it's a very like trapping thing. I mean, it's designed to be something that sucks you in and doesn't let you go for hours at a time. And I found myself having, I had like 8 hours of screen time daily. And it was just like from just brain rot, like just stuff that's not, useful or productive or even something that I particularly enjoy. And so I kind of wanted to make an effort to change it. And I knew that I was going to have to try really hard to do that.
Yeah, it was interesting when you came to me because we did notice that, she was just doing this mindless, constant scrolling. Even when we were watching TV, she's just scrolling. And you get sucked into this void, I guess. And also, I think that it kind of makes you a little bit depressed, too.
Yeah. I mean, I have ADHD. And so one of the theories there is that it's a dopamine deficiency. And like, this is just something that drains my dopamine. Like, it's something that I only associate dopamine with, social media. And when I don't have it and I'm trying to not do it, it kind of makes me not feel motivated or happy. I felt stuck. I felt, kind of just like I couldn't feel like, relaxed without it.
Mm-hmm. And so what did you do? Like, what was your plan to stop?
So...
Or cut down?
Yeah. I mean, my approach was I've been introduced to Hebbian learning, which is like neurons that fire together, wire together. So I knew that it's something that I needed to, really solidify.
What? If I don't know what that is, maybe some people out there, what are you talking about?
Like, you're in your brain, you have neurons, and when they fire, when they make pathways, neural pathways, they tend to want to make those same pathways again. So if you want to break a habit, you have to be consistent about it, because if you're consistent with something, then you're going to want to do it again and again and again, and that's kind of how habits form.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But that's, I knew that I would need to be consistent about it, and I knew that I had kind of tried to cut down in the past where I put screen time limits on my phone, but I found myself just bypassing them, or I tried to do other things on my phone to replace the behavior, like reading on my phone, and I just knew that none of those had historically worked for me. So what I did was I tried to assess my habits and look at the things that I did during the day that made me go on my phone. So I found that in the morning when I got up, I would often pick up my phone and start scrolling. In the evening before I went to bed, I would often lay in bed and scroll before I went to sleep, which often made me miss the time that I would like to go to sleep because I couldn't stop scrolling. And then also when I got home from school, I would find myself throwing down my school bag, getting into bed, scrolling. And so I wanted to pinpoint each of those times. And another one was when I'm working and I get bored, or I kind of get burnt out a little bit. So I wanted to pinpoint each of those times and replace it with other behaviors, because I knew I couldn't just stop. I had to replace it with another behavior, and I had to look at what was actually going on, what was the need that I was fulfilling with social media. So in the mornings, I personally like to get up, shower, and then relax in my bed for a little while so that I can kind of get up slowly and it's not kind of this abrupt thing. So I was trying to figure out what to replace that with, and I decided to start reading in the mornings, which was really good because I love reading. I really do. I just felt like I didn't have any time for it before, I do have time for it. Would prefer to be on social media. So I read a physical book because that kind of breaks the phone thing. And I also try to not check my phone right when I get up. I try to, leave it charging, plugged in, and not check it immediately, because if I check it immediately, then I'm going to be sucked in. Another thing that I did when replacing the behavior of boredom is I would try and kind of move my body, stretch. That's something that really helps me refocus. But anything that you can do to kind of refocus your attention on the task at hand. I know a lot of this sounds like, oh, just read instead, just stretch instead. But the thing that's helping is not the physical act of reading or stretching. It's the breaking the behavior by replacing it. So figuring out what the need is that you are fulfilling, and then fulfilling it with something else is definitely the thing that helped me the most.
Yeah, I found that it's been nice being around you more because you're not constantly on your phone, and you're almost more likely to say yes to do things with us, because you're not worried about missing out on whatever's happening online. So I find that even we've got a little bit of you back to us. The only thing is what would you say to parents who they see that their kids are having this issue? Like, we saw that you were having this issue, but we couldn't say to you, hey, you should stop on social media, because I feel like, well, you just get angry.
Yeah.
I don't think you would do it.
I think it's something that kind of has to come out of like your own fruition. Like, you can't be told something. It's like if you're friends with someone and someone's like, that person's a bad person, like, you kind of have to realize yourself that it's not good for you, because if you're told, you're gonna not want to. So I think one of the things that I've thought of is like really like nourishing your child's like hobbies and things outside of social media, and asking them about it, and like, you know, kind of seeing that they're involved in that like community or space or whatever. I think that's something that really helped me, is like, if I am really interested in something, then I'll devote my time to that instead of social media. And so even something such as like watching a show on Netflix or watching something on YouTube, like, even though those are still not necessarily productive forms of, you know, content, you don't need to be productive all the time. So
true.
I think those things are like longer format. You have to make the conscious decision to choose what to watch instead of just being presented with kind of whatever. And the longer form content helps with your attention span. I found my attention span was really, really short before, and I found even like just for a couple weeks doing this has like made my attention span so much longer and so much better.
Yeah, and you're more productive, I find, too.
I'm significantly more productive.
I don't find you're like stuck laying in your bed as much. Like, you're doing things with us, you're out, and you seem to be happier as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely much happier because I just feel like I have more energy, I can do more things. And, you know, you wouldn't think it's such a drastic change in your life. Like, you wouldn't think that being on social media is like really that bad, because it's, you know, it's just like watching some videos, but it can really add up, and it can really change the way that your brain perceives reality and perceives, you know, wires together. So yeah.
I think for parents too, when you're having a conversation with your kids about being on social media too much, instead of sort of tackling it like, hey, do you think you're on social media too much, or criticizing like you're always on social media, is asking questions to learn more about maybe why they're on social media, and also validate. You know, validating is a really big component to having kids be receptive to maybe making changes. So instead of saying you're on social media too much, say, you know, how does it feel when you're on social media? Like, what sort of why are you on social media so much? And be open to hearing the conversation, because I think a lot of it with Faris too was just this fear of missing out on something.
Yeah, I think, and for some of the social medias, I was able to just like delete them, or you can also, one thing that helped me, because on TikTok you have drafts where if you delete the app, then all your drafts are gone. So you can also offload something off your phone, so it's not like deleted. You still have them, like the stuff in the app. It's just you can't necessarily access it as easily. And for some social medias like Instagram, I needed to keep using, because I have, you know, group chats on there. I have like communications with certain clubs that I'm in on there. So, you know, just using that for communication purposes was something that I felt I needed to keep. But I've kind of found ways. Also, I'm very competitive. Like I'm very
No.
like kind of a little bit strong-headed and competitive, and so I kind of make a competition with myself. Like, I want to try and get less than 2 hours every day, and I would like check on my, you know, my screen time app to like see like, okay, I have this much that day I went over a little bit 2 hours, so this day I have to go under 2 hours, and, you know, to compensate. So I think that also helped me, the kind of competitive aspect of like really wanting it. Like that's the thing is you have to really want it. Like you have to kind of be a little bit determined, because if you're not, then you're kind of, it's a hard thing to break.
Yeah. You have to want to break it. And that's
Yeah.
why as parents, you can't tell your kid to get offline. You have to sort of maybe guide them or lead them to that decision themselves. But I think the one thing or the takeaway from this is evaluate how you're feeling. How is being on social media all the time making you feel? Like for me, sometimes I just want to stop social media because it can be depressing. Like you see people posting all of these things and you're not a part of it, or, you know, you're missing out on experiences. And it just, you know, so much of it is just fabricated. It's so fake. But just figuring out how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And then what are, say, 3 tips or any tips that you can give to get started? Because I think one would be don't kind of do an all or nothing approach, because I think that would be hard. I don't know. What do you think?
I think my main tips are really try to stick with it. That's the number one thing, is give it at least 2 weeks. Just like try your best. Another tip is you can always start again. It's like if you start and you fail, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It doesn't mean that like whatever, like you can always start again. And even like I myself, like I just finished all my exams, which was a really stressful time. And so, you know, the past week I've kind of allowed myself to be a little bit more relaxed with my screen time. But I know that I'm not just going to like go back to the way I was. I know that I'm going to, you know, when the school starts back up again and like exam season is over, I'm able to kind of get back into the routine of things. So that's an important one. And then also just looking at the values and like the root causes of why you're on social media. Are you on social media because you're tired? How can you change that energy level? Are you on social media because you're bored? Can you do like what other things can you do that like really enrich you and not just make you scroll? Are you on social media because you're kind of just like, one thing that I do is that I found I was on social media because I was just kind of a little bit not lonely, just like I needed something to do. I was kind of, while I was doing my makeup, while I was, you know, eating breakfast, like I needed some sort of stimulation without, you know, too much commitment. So I started listening to podcasts that I really enjoy, and it doesn't have to be like an informational podcast. I listen to a Dungeons and Dragons podcast and I love it. So, you know, just kind of anything. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go from like being on social media for 8 hours a day to like getting up at 5 a.m. and eating a yogurt bowl and working out for 3 hours. Like, you know, you can be gentle with yourself.
And realistic of
Yeah.
what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for sharing, Farice, because I know that I'm sure a lot of people out there, even me, I feel like I don't want to constantly be scrolling. And as soon as, you know, maybe dad goes downstairs to get something, I pick up my phone. Like, it's like I constantly have to have this stimulation in my life.
Yeah.
And to be aware of what you're doing and how it's making you feel. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like and subscribe. That's a thing. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.